A thin layer of mist clung to the jagged cliffs of Vertuk, a barren, wind-scoured wasteland that had become a battlefield in humanity's desperate war against the Graxian Empire. The air smelled of scorched earth and metal, the remnants of an orbital bombardment that had failed to root out the last human defenders. Among the rocky ridges, unseen and waiting, lay death itself. Michael, Reaper Cole, adjusted his scope, his breath slow and steady as he sighted in on the patrol below. 5 Graxian warriors moved in a staggered line, their bulky exosuits glistening with moisture. They thought they were safe here, beyond the reach of human firepower. They were wrong. A voice crackled in his earpiece, calm and measured. Winds picking up from the north, 5 knots. Just half a click left. Samuel Ghost Hayes, his spotter, crouched beside him, barely distinguishable from the rocks around them. Years of training had turned him into a ghost in more ways than one. Michael made the correction, his finger resting lightly against the trigger. A moment passed, just long enough for the Graxian officer to turn his head. The alien's mandibles flexed, mouth opening, as if sensing something unnatural in the air. A single suppressed shot rang out. The officer's helmet snapped back, his body crumpling before the others even realized what had happened. A beat of silence followed, then chaos. The remaining Graxians barked orders, their weapons swinging in all directions, but the desert ridges gave them nothing. They were being hunted by something they could neither see nor comprehend. Michael exhaled and shifted his scope to the next target. Another shot. Another body dropped. Ghost murmured his confirmation, already scanning for the next threat. Further down the ridge, Benjamin Deadeye Carter adjusted his own rifle, watching through his high-powered scope. He had the patience of a stone, the eyes of a predator. Unlike the others, he relished the waiting. The fear, the knowledge that he had total control over whether a man or an alien took their last breath. A patrol further east attempted to take cover behind a boulder. It would have worked against standard fire, but not against Benjamin. A single shot punctured the weak point in their armor, turning the boulder into a grave marker. 3 down, 2 left. Ryan Bullseye Matthews confirmed over comms, his drone feeding real-time information to the team. The young corporal had an almost unnatural gift for spotting movement, a skill that made him indispensable. From a smaller outcrop to the right, Private James Rook Allen shifted uncomfortably. His palms were slick inside his gloves, his heart hammering. It was his first real mission, his first time pulling the trigger with something other than a practice target in his sights. "Take the shot," Michael whispered over the radio, his voice firm but not unkind. Rook swallowed hard, aligning his sights with the last remaining Graxian. The alien was panicking now, antennae twitching, mandibles clacking as it barked into its calm. Rook could see it breathing heavily, could almost imagine its thoughts. Where are they? Where is the enemy? His finger tensed on the trigger. A second passed, then another. The hesitation nearly cost them everything. A shrieking alarm blared from the fallen officer's wrist, pulsing with an urgent, blood-red light. A distress beacon. "Damn it, Rook," Benjamin started, but the rookie finally squeezed the trigger. The last Graxian crumpled, but it was too late. The beacon had already sent a warning straight to the Graxian command post. Michael clenched his jaw. They had been methodical, precise, unseen. Now they had minutes before the enemy came down on them like a hammer. Ghost was already on it. "Pack up now. We need to relocate before they send drones." The team moved with practiced efficiency, gathering their spent casings, erasing their presence. Ryan deployed a false thermal signature to mislead enemy scanners, buying them precious seconds. Michael kept his tone level, but Rook could feel the disappointment beneath it. "Hesitation gets people killed." "I know," Rook muttered. No excuses. Get moving." They melted into the ridges, their steps silent, their bodies blending with the environment. Below them, the Graxian outpost was coming alive, searchlights sweeping over the terrain. Dozens of armored figures poured out, their weapons primed. In the distance, the low, ominous hum of approaching drones filled the air. The hunt had begun. The valley was no longer quiet. The distant, rhythmic pounding of heavy boots on stone filled the air, a grim, relentless cadence that signaled the Graxians' response. From their perch in the craggy cliffs, Michael Cole and his team watched the enemy advance. The aliens moved with precision, their armored bodies shifting seamlessly in coordinated formations. They were no longer patrolling. They were hunting. Michael lay prone against the warm rock, his rifle nestled into his shoulder, the scope offering a clear view of the Graxian squads fanning out below. Their formation had changed, spread wider, disciplined, covering every possible angle. This was no panic search party. They knew their enemy was near, and they were preparing for blood. "They've adapted," Samuel Hayes muttered beside him, his voice barely a breath against the wind. Michael didn't respond immediately. He studied the figures below, noting the new gear strapped to their backs. Compact scanning drones, plasma-based pulse cannons, and something else, something unfamiliar. A shimmering blue disc in the hands of one of their officers pulsed with energy before unleashing a wave across the terrain. The ground around them flickered with light, as if reality itself had been peeled back for an instant. A scan, not for movement, not for heat, but for distortions. Camouflage, traps, hidden bodies. Nothing would be safe from it. "Ryan," Michael murmured into his calm, "you seeing this?" Further along the ridge, Ryan Matthews adjusted his drone's feed. "Yeah, some kind of wide-range distortion scan. If we were using cloaking fields, they'd already have us. But we're not," Benjamin Carter added. "So we stay still, we stay low, and we pick them off before they get another pulse out." Michael clicked his tongue. "Agreed. First wave is still outside optimal range. Hold fire." Rook shifted next to him, breath unsteady. "They know we're here." "They suspect," Samuel corrected. "They don't know, but they would soon." The Graxians moved with caution now, weapons primed, shifting their trajectory with every few steps. The officer carrying the scanning disc raised his mandibles, barking a command that sent his squad into a circular formation. They were setting up a forward position, securing the ground for the second wave behind them. More were coming. Michael inhaled through his nose, exhaled slow and even. His crosshairs hovered over the officer's forehead. The angle was perfect, the distance manageable. His finger curled around the trigger. Then a Graxian drone dipped suddenly, its red light slicing through the air just a few meters from their position. "Do not move," Samuel whispered. The drone hung there, its scanning module pulsing in methodical beats. It drifted sideways, just over the outcrop where Rook lay. The rookie's breath hitched, his fingers clenching around his rifle. Michael shifted his sight. If the drone lingered too long, they'd have to shoot it, and that would set off every alarm in the Graxian network. The drone made one final sweep, then rose and veered back toward its squad. Michael let out the breath he had been holding. "They're fishing. They don't know where we are," Samuel said, his voice tight, "but they know we're close." The Graxian officer raised the scanning disc again. Michael exhaled. Not this time. His shot cracked through the air, precise and absolute. The officer's head snapped backward, the disc slipping from lifeless fingers as his body crumpled to the ground. The squads erupted into motion, weapons lifting, searching for an enemy that remained nothing more than a whisper. "Drop their scanners first," Michael ordered. Benjamin fired next, another officer falling before he could react. Samuel followed, his shot striking a drone mid-air, sending it spiraling to the ground in a burst of sparks. Chaos erupted below. The Graxians, for all their training, still could not fight what they could not see. Their formations collapsed into disarray, warriors barking orders, firing blindly into the cliffs. Plasma bolts scorched rock, sending shards of stone flying, but none of them found their mark. Rook adjusted his rifle, his hand steadier this time. His scope lined up with a Graxian who had broken from cover, a pulse cannon charging in his grip. He fired. The shot hit just below the Graxian's helmet, the impact driving the alien to the ground. Rook exhaled sharply, relief cutting through the tension in his chest. But the battle was far from over. "They're falling back," Ryan noted, his drone feeding him live visuals. "Not a retreat, a reset. They're calling in heavies." Michael adjusted his position, scanning the terrain beyond the first wave. His stomach tightened. A new line of soldiers was approaching, larger figures, their armor bulkier, plated with reinforced alloys. Juggernauts. The Graxians weren't making the mistake of underestimating them again. "Shit," Benjamin muttered. "Full body plating. We won't drop them with standard rounds." Michael switched his rifle's chamber, loading armor-piercing rounds. We can drop them. We just need to hit where it hurts. The juggernauts advanced in unison, their footfalls shaking the ground beneath them. They moved with eerie confidence, the bodies of their fallen comrades barely acknowledged. These weren't warriors searching for a fight. These were executioners. The lead juggernaut raised an arm, and a shield pulsed to life around him, a kinetic barrier absorbing energy, deflecting traditional ballistics. The others followed suit, shimmering shields locking into place like a moving phalanx. Michael's jaw tightened. Well, that's new. Samuel exhaled slowly. Ideas? We flank, Michael said, already recalculating their positions. Hit them from multiple angles. These shields won't cover their backs. Ryan's voice cut in. You're not gonna like this, but their armor's got a heat signature buried under the plating. Could be a power source. Michael grinned. Now that I do like... He switched to his calm Rook. You and Samuel take the high ground on the western ridge. Ryan, get us an alternative exit route. Benjamin, you and I will set up a 2-point ambush. Benjamin smirked. Good. I was getting bored. The team moved swiftly, slipping into the terrain like shadows. The Graxians had adapted, but so had they. Michael checked his rifle one last time and settled into position, watching as the juggernauts marched straight into their sights. He exhaled, feeling the familiar weight of the trigger under his finger. The real battle was about to begin. The battlefield smelled of scorched rock and burning metal. Smoke curled upward from the remains of fallen drones, their shattered exoskeletons glowing with residual heat. The Graxian assault had escalated beyond reconnaissance sweeps and cautious patrols. Now, it was all-out war. Michael Cole and his team had carved through the enemy's first waves with precision, but the enemy had learned, and they had brought something worse. The juggernauts moved through the valley like living tanks, their plated armor reflecting the dying light of Vertuk 4's twin suns. Their kinetic shields flickered as they absorbed impacts, every shot wasted against their advancing wall. Plasma cannons, mounted on their gauntlets, sent energy blasts rippling through the cliffs, tearing into stone and leaving behind glowing craters where sniper nests had once been. Michael pressed his body flat against a ridge, exhaling as another blast ripped through the rock just meters from his position. Dust rained over him, stinging his eyes, but he didn't move. Not yet. Confirming 8 juggernauts, still advancing. Ryan Matthews' voice crackled over the comm. He had repositioned higher on the ridge, monitoring their advance. We've barely slowed them down. Benjamin Carter's voice was calm, steady, but edged with the same urgency Michael felt. I can punch through their armor if I hit the right spot. Problem is, they know that too. They're keeping their backs to the cliffs, no openings. They're forcing us into a straight engagement, Samuel Hayes murmured. They want to corner us. Michael already knew. Josh Dorr was done playing games. The Graxian commander had been watching, learning, sacrificing his own troops just to test their methods. Now, he was ready to put an end to the resistance once and for all. Michael scanned the ridgeline, searching for their next move. We need to split their formation. If we can get them to break ranks, they'll expose their weak spots. Samuel shifted beside him, lining up his scope. I can make them move. A moment later, a single shot rang out, perfectly timed. The bullet found its mark. A Graxian officer just behind the line, his body crumpling instantly. The reaction was immediate. The juggernauts turned, their formation adjusting, their shields flickering as they reassessed the threat. Michael fired next, his shot grazing the energy node of a shield, causing it to flicker. Benjamin followed, his bullet finding the exposed gap between a Graxian's armor plates. The warrior collapsed with a heavy thud. For a brief moment, it worked. Their formation wavered. Then the retaliation came. A blast from the lead juggernaut's cannon detonated the ground where Ryan had been stationed moments earlier. The explosion sent debris flying, the shockwave throwing Michael and Samuel against the rocks. Ryan's voice broke through the comms, strained. I'm hit. Not bad, but I'm moving. Rook's breathing was ragged as he adjusted his position. They're still coming. Michael wiped the blood from his lip, repositioning himself against the ridge. The juggernauts had lost 3 of their own, but they weren't breaking. They were advancing faster. And behind them, Josh Dorr stepped forward. The Graxian commander stood taller than the others, his armor adorned with markings of 100 victories. His gauntlet pulsed with a deep, violet glow, an energy blade forming in his grasp. His mandibles clicked in satisfaction as he surveyed the battlefield. Michael felt it in his bones. This wasn't just about eliminating a threat anymore. This was a personal hunt. Joshua pointed toward the cliffs, giving a sharp, guttural command. The remaining juggernauts surged forward in unison, plasma rounds exploding against the terrain in a relentless bombardment. Michael gritted his teeth. "We hold the line here." Benjamin reloaded, adjusting his scope. "That's assuming there's a line left to hold." The next few minutes were chaos. The snipers fired, moving between cover, striking at weak points wherever they could. Each shot slowed the enemy, but not enough. The Graxians pressed forward, their shields absorbing more than they could destroy. Then Ryan called out, voice sharp with urgency. "South side, second wave inbound." Michael's stomach clenched. Another squad of Graxian infantry, smaller but faster, was scaling the cliffs. If they made it to their position, the snipers would be overwhelmed. "We need an escape route," Samuel said, his voice tight. "There isn't one," Michael responded. "Not unless we make one." Joshua's blade pulsed, his eyes locked on Michael's position. The Graxian commander leapt forward with terrifying speed, closing the distance in seconds. Michael rolled aside as the energy blade struck the rock where he had just been, cutting through solid stone as if it were air. He didn't hesitate. He aimed and fired, the bullet slamming into Joshua's shoulder. The Graxian staggered but did not fall. Instead, he laughed, a deep, guttural sound. "You have fought well, human," Joshua growled. "But you have lost." He lunged again, and Michael barely avoided the strike. The Graxian speed was unreal, his strength even more so. Michael fired again, this time at the warrior's leg. The shot connected, staggering him just long enough for Benjamin to take his own shot. The bullet struck home, shattering part of Joshua's gauntlet. The energy blade flickered, dimming, but not extinguished. Rook's voice suddenly cut through the chaos. "The cliff." Michael turned toward him, then followed his line of sight. The ridge they stood on wasn't stable. Joshua's relentless strikes had weakened it. Michael made a decision. "We end this now." He sprinted toward the edge, Joshua chasing him. At the last second, Michael turned, dropping to one knee, rifle raised. "Benjamin." "On it." Joshua lunged, and in the same instant, Benjamin's shot rang out. The bullet struck the weakened cliffside just behind Joshua. The rock gave way. For a split second, the Graxian commander's eyes widened in understanding. Then the ground beneath him collapsed, sending him plunging into the darkness below. Silence. Michael remained still, his breath heavy. The remaining Graxians hesitated, their leader gone, their formation broken. Then, without warning, they turned and fled. Ryan let out a breath. "They're running." Benjamin lowered his rifle. "Took them long enough." Michael exhaled slowly. The battle was over. But the war was far from finished. The battlefield was still, save for the distant hum of retreating Graxian forces. Smoke curled into the air, carrying the acrid stench of burned metal and scorched earth. The jagged cliffs that had once been a vantage point now lay in ruin, chunks of rock crumbling into the abyss where Joshua had fallen. But Michael Cole wasn't convinced the fight was over. His fingers tightened around the rifle's grip as he scanned the battlefield through his scope. The Graxians had retreated, yes, but retreat was not the same as surrender. They were regrouping. They were planning. The enemy had underestimated human snipers once. He doubted they would make that mistake again. Samuel Hayes adjusted his position beside him, eyes sharp, steady. "They're not coming back, not now." Michael lowered his rifle, but did not relax. Not yet. Below them, the remnants of the juggernauts lay scattered among the rocks, massive armor plating charred and cracked. The snipers had made every shot count, exploiting every weakness, but the cost had been high. Ryan Matthews had taken a plasma blast to the side, though he was still breathing. Rook had survived his first real battle, but the haunted look in his eyes said it wouldn't be his last. Benjamin Carter sat against a boulder, idly reloading his rifle, his movements slow, methodical. For the first time in hours, there was no immediate enemy, no looming threat. And yet, the air felt heavier. Then came the transmission. A deep, guttural voice broke through their calms, grainy, but unmistakable. "You think this is victory?" The static-laced words carried the unmistakable weight of a challenge. A threat. Michael stiffened. "Josh Tor." Rook's voice wavered. "That's not possible." He fell. Samuel's expression darkened. "Survivability isn't just a human trait." Michael adjusted his calms, voice calm, measured. "I watched you go over the edge. You should be dead." A raspy chuckle followed. "Should be. But I am not." There was a pause, and then a new sound filtered through the calms. Something metallic, something alive. A warship. Ryan, despite his injuries, cursed under his breath. "That's not a patrol craft. That's a goddamn warship." Michael looked up, and his stomach twisted. The sky, once tinged with the dying light of Vertuk 4's twin suns, was now shadowed by the enormous, looming presence of a Graxian battleship. A chill settled over him. The Graxians hadn't just retreated. They had gone to retrieve their true weapon. Josh Tor was alive, and he had returned. The comms crackled again. "You killed my warriors. You shattered my forces. But I will show you, human, why your kind does not belong among the stars." Michael's team exchanged glances, each man reading the silent message in the other's eyes. This wasn't over. Samuel was the first to break the silence. "He's calling for an orbital strike." Michael clenched his jaw. Josh Tor wasn't hunting them anymore. He was wiping the entire battlefield clean. A Graxian warship had the firepower to turn this entire valley into a crater. They had minutes at best. Rook's voice was tight. "We can't run. Not fast enough." Ryan was already scanning through his data feeds, but his grim expression confirmed what they all feared. No way out. No reinforcements close enough. They had been written off as dead men, unless they did the impossible. Michael took a slow breath. "We kill him first?" Benjamin gave a short, humorless laugh. "I like it. You got a plan? Or are we just hoping he stands still?" Michael turned his rifle toward the hovering warship, adjusting the scope, finding the heat signatures of those inside. Josh's was the brightest, standing at the bridge, likely overseeing their destruction with smug satisfaction. The only way to stop the strike was to kill him. One shot, one kill. Ryan's fingers flew over his wrist console. "I can tap into their ship's external relay. If I can overload their thermal readings, I can buy you a few seconds. Make them think their shields are failing." "Give me those seconds," Michael said, steadying his aim. "That's all I need." The wind had died, leaving an eerie stillness. Samuel lay beside him, watching, measuring, waiting. Rook barely breathed. The warship's cannons began to glow, charging. Ryan whispered, "Now." The moment the false readings spiked, Josh Tor turned, distracted, barking orders. His body shifted, exposing the smallest gap in the reinforced glass. Michael squeezed the trigger. Time stretched. The bullet left the chamber, cutting through the thinning atmosphere. For a split second, there was nothing. No sound. No movement. Then, Josh's head snapped back. Blood splattered against the reinforced bridge window. The Graxian commander staggered, clawing at his throat. But it was over. He crumpled, his body twitching, before falling still. The ship's lights flickered. The cannons dimmed. For a moment, the battlefield held its breath. Then the warship lurched, its systems thrown into chaos by the sudden loss of command. The ship veered, struggling to correct itself. Warning sirens blared across its hull. And then, as if fate itself had decided to deliver the final blow, the battleship descended. It crashed into the valley with the force of a dying star, flames erupting from its ruptured core. Metal twisted and screamed, the ground shuddering beneath the impact. The Graxians that remained on the surface fled, their once mighty warship now little more than a smoldering wreck. Michael exhaled, lowering his rifle. Samuel let out a slow breath. "One shot, one kill," Benjamin finished. The team remained still for a moment, absorbing what had just happened. The warship had fallen. Josh Tor was dead. The Graxians had lost. And humanity had won. Rook looked at Michael, awe in his voice. "How did you know you could make that shot?" Michael didn't answer right away. Instead, he glanced down at his rifle, the same one that had ended so many battles before this. The same one that had never failed him. I didn't, he admitted. But I knew I had to. Ryan let out a short laugh, wincing as he adjusted his injured side. Well, next time, let's not cut it so damn close. Benjamin wiped a smudge of dirt from his scope. Next time, they'll know better than to mess with human snipers. Michael stood, his team rising with him. The battlefield around them was quiet now. Nothing left but the scattered remains of a war that had finally ended. Above them, the sky cleared, the stars blinking into existence once more. Humanity had sent a message that would echo across the galaxy. They were not just warriors. They were hunters, and they never missed.